Welcome to another exciting new episode of Talking About Stoicism. I heard the Joni Mitchell song Both Sides Now again after a while, a couple days ago, and it made me think, because there are some interesting Stoic lines in that song in general, but what particularly struck me and made me think were these lines. I'm not going to sing for you. I'll spare you that trauma. But now, old friends, they're acting strange. They shake their heads and they tell me that I've changed. Well, something's lost, but something's gained in living every day. What's interesting about those lines is that they're really quite stoic. A lot of things happen to us in life, hopefully a lot of positive things, but certainly also negative things. For the simple reason that that's how life works, that's how the universe works. Doesn't matter what you do, who you are, you will undergo certain things in life that are unpleasant. Good things can change you, but negative things, negative experiences will almost invariably change you. And I'm not talking about little minor things, I'm talking about bigger things. And it's important to realize that you are not who you used to be. People use that expression a lot. You're not who you used to be. And usually it's negative, right? You're not who you used to be. Or even worse, I don't recognize you anymore. Well, you shouldn't. You shouldn't really recognize me in the strictest sense of the word, because if I'm doing my job as a Stoic, I continue to make progress. I continue to change the way I look at the universe, the way I look at myself, the way I look at life, in such a way I become different. I become stronger. Maybe I become less affected by certain things. Maybe I become less upset by certain things. But irrespective of how successful you are at working on yourself, you will change. You are not the person you used to be 10 years ago. A year ago, 6 months ago. Sometimes you're no longer the person you were a week ago, depending on what happens. And that's okay. Provided, of course, that you seem to be changing for the better. If you develop a substance abuse issue, well, then clearly that's not a good thing. But I'm not talking about those things. I'm talking about you go through something, you go along with that, you allow that to change you in a positive manner because you actively seek for lessons in that thing. Whatever it is that has happened, you look for lessons in that. It's a difficult thing to do. It's hard to draw lessons from something, from anything. But it's an important skill. And if you try to apply Stoicism into your everyday life, it's a vital skill. Continuously making progress, being someone who makes progress, means that you are doing well on the Stoic path. And I disagree when, again, barring extreme circumstances and very unpleasant things, I disagree with the idea of the expression, well, you're no longer who you used to be, being a negative thing. If you've really changed for the negative, if you've become a very unpleasant person, if you've become very bitter and angry, and really, that's a different story. But if you have allowed what has happened to you to change you for the better, when you have allowed that thing to make you more resilient, more flexible, stronger, then your change is for the better. And then it's true that old friends may say, "You're acting strange. I don't really know you anymore. You're different from what you used to be." And I think a lot of the time, those changes are positive for us. Even though they are difficult at the time, hard to deal with at the time, later you may come out much stronger. And again, that is difficult. It's a difficult process, especially at the time. But you have to also give that time. I think we end up learning the most from those experiences that are negative, that hurt us in different ways, but it's those kinds of circumstances that allow us to become stronger, more resilient people. And again, it's very difficult. I'm certainly not making light of those kinds of events. But it is those things that end up changing us. And I don't think we can change without going through those sorts of things. There's an interesting book by William Irvine, who's a professor of philosophy. He wrote a couple of books about Stoicism that are all very legible and all very much worth reading. I find he has a very pleasant writing style. And one of his books is called The Stoic Challenge. And he talks about making the most out of difficult circumstances, because he specifically describes how he approaches difficult things, and he gives many excellent examples, smaller ones, bigger ones, how he approaches those kinds of things, unpleasant things, as a challenge. And how he's grateful for those challenges, because he says, well, that is my opportunity to test myself, to prove that I can put into practice the Stoic principles that I study, that I write about, that I try to incorporate into my life. And I find it very difficult. I find it difficult to do that, but I think he has a very good point in if you can look at the difficulties that cross your path as challenges for you to overcome, it can become easier to do so. Not because it's fair. It's not fair that unpleasant things happen to you. It's not nice. It's certainly not something I mean to belittle. But it is something that happens to everyone. So looking at it as a challenge, okay, you know what? Take a step back. This was difficult, but you know what? I'm going to try and glean a lesson from this, learn from this, and then apply that. And as a result, hopefully become a better person. It's an interesting approach, and I think it's an approach that can be beneficial to a lot of people. And you will change. All of us change continuously. I'm not the person I was 5 years ago. I'm not the person I was a year ago. Things happen and things end up changing you. And it may take you to become a person you may never have thought you would become. And again, hopefully not in a bad way, right? But in a positive way. But you may find out you are stronger. You are more resilient. You are better equipped to handle certain things than you may have thought you were. It's still hard, and it will still be hard, but you're not that person anymore. And if you can look back, and everyone can, I know everyone who's watching this video can look back and say, yeah, that was a situation that changed me. That was an event that changed me. At the time, difficult, but now looking back, it was a turning point. And I find that it's those turning points that are, again, very difficult at the time, But those are the ones we learn from the most, and points that we need to become the persons we are now. Just focus on the positive that comes out of it. Because once you start to focus and fixate on the negatives, you will become resentful and bitter and angry and all those things. You don't want to have that in your life, right? So, I think that's enough rambling for one day. I hope that was useful. Let me know what you think. Are you still the same person? If not, what has changed? You don't have to go into personal details if you don't want, but I mean, how do you feel about that? Are you still the same person, or are you different? How do you look at that? I find it interesting to read that. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was useful, and I'll gladly see you again next time for more Talk About Stoicism. Bye!